How's it, Godzilla fans, kaiju fans, collectors, and just general people of YouTube? This is Godzilla 1964 coming to you with a long time coming kind of figure review. And the reason I call it a kind of figure review is because these don't really move and they're actually finger puppets. I'll show you what I mean. On my left here, we have the volume 1 of the Godzilla Sofvi puppet mascots. Please pan the camera. Yeah, volume 1, which consists of Shin Godzilla, the 1954 Godzilla, Burning Godzilla, Destroyer, Gadora, Rodan, Mecha Godzilla, Hedora, I believe the first Mothra, and Biolante. If you pan to my right, we have the Gyan, Hedora, Flying Form, Jaguar, Kiryu, Mecha Godzilla, Destroyer, Mothra, Manilla, Kamata-kun from Shin Godzilla, and I believe the 2000s Godzilla, and the Heisei Godzilla. We have a really cool lineup today. I'm very excited to be doing my first review in a long time. This is just a heads up, but while we go through this review, Chanzilla is going to be helping me do the camera work as well as hold up the figures while I talk about them. Now, we're going to be talking about Shin Godzilla first. So we have the Sofvi Shin Godzilla finger puppet here. We're just going to be talking about detail and paint for these guys because these guys don't really have any articulation and they're all kind of small, but they don't have articulation like me. So yeah, that's pretty much all we're going to be reviewing, if anything. Anyways, though, we have Shin Godzilla here. The detail on this guy is fantastic. You have all the gross Shin Godzilla skin-like detail, where it kind of looks like he was burned all over his body and he's all charred up. You even got these nice little spikes over here, or the spiky details for Shin Godzilla, very nicely detailed in. They even got his stubby little arms, his little chest spike, and his very chunky legs, and the little toes too. He even got his little long tail, and it kind of has a face on it. So overall, you know, Shin Godzilla, very nicely detailed. And paint, this thing has more paint than the Bandai Movie Monsters figures Shin Godzilla did. So it's kind of a bummer for Bandai. At the same time, this figure is so nicely painted. I'm amazed at the amount of paint that they included on this guy and the amount of paint that Bandai could have included on their Shin Godzilla figure, but that's all in the past. And in general, this is a really nice Shin Godzilla finger puppet figure, honestly. Up next, we have the 1954 Godzilla finger puppet figure, this being the original Godzilla. Now, detail. First off, he looks like a freaky mother with the smile and his eyes, because this Godzilla just has crazy eyes. It's a very unsettling look, and that being said, it's also a very nicely detailed figure considering the amount of unsettlingness that they put into this guy. Although he looks pretty perfectly like the 1954 Godzilla. You got all the scaling detail here. You got his hands, his feet, all very nicely detailed. His chest is especially very nicely detailed. I appreciate that. The back, you got his dorsal plates here, all very nicely done, and his little stubby tail. And then you got the face for 1954 Godzilla. They nailed his face to a scary accuracy. I'm just kind of questioning why they made him smile. It's very off-putting and it's very weird, but I kind of dig it. And so does Chanzilla because he's nodding behind the camera. Anyways, though, besides detail, paint on this guy's really good too, because you got the base figure vinyl plastic color. And then you have all this kind of shading for Godzilla's skin, this really nice gray and white shading, which I really like. And then on his toenails, you're gonna have this kind of gray paint for his toenails and his fingernails. His face is very nicely painted. This is the kind of gray shading that I was talking about. His teeth are each all individually painted, and his eyes are very nicely done. Very unsettling and very accurate for the movie. I really like this 1954 Godzilla. And you're gonna find with a lot of these guys, the paint's a whole lot better than Bandai. Details kind of going to be a hit or miss, but the paint for sure is going to be a whole lot better than Bandai paint. So Bandai, got to step up your game, because I think these guys are going to beat you out of your game. Here we have the Burning Godzilla from the Heisei line of Godzilla. Yeah, my brain went blank over there. Anyways, though, detail for Burning Godzilla. His arm is kind of falling off over here, but that's okay. Besides that, you got all the Heisei goodness detail that you would expect from a Heisei Godzilla. Yeah, all the detail there. He's got the Heisei Godzilla face, which I really like how they did his face. He's kind of missing his two bottom teeth, but I kind of get it. But the real highlight here is going to be Burning Godzilla's paint. The paint is amazing. It's really nice how they portrayed the burning effect for him, because it looks like they painted the orange and they kind of darkened it around the edges, and they have this really nice yellow that's in the middle of the orange that makes it look like it's kind of being illuminated. And this goes for his chest and his arms. So very nice paint. His eyes are painted very nicely too, where you have the yellow that leads to the orange iris and the pupil, and there's a black ring around the iris too, which is really nice. It's turning him around to the dorsal fins. His dorsal fins are very nicely painted, where you got this orange for the tips, and then there's some kind of brownish black char, or assuming what's going to be char for the inside of the dorsal fin. So very nicely painted. What's really cool is, if the camera can pick it up, there's a bit of white paint for the tips of his dorsal plates for his tail at the very end. That I really appreciate from these guys. I mean, this is some A+ paint jobs right here. Seriously. Here we have the aggregate version of Destroyer, the crab, aka the crab version of Destroyer. Now, the detail on this guy is really cool. And I really like the detail, because you got the inside mouth here that's actually detailed, and I hope the camera's picking it up. And then the mouth itself is very nicely detailed with all of his kind of mandible predator looking shit. You got Destroyer's neck, and then you got his stomach thing, all very nicely done. And then you even got the mini legs sculpted in here, which is really cool, on top of the main 6 legs that Destroyer usually has. Now, the highlight for me is Destroyer's crown thing. It's really nice here how they did the detail work. And if you turn him around, you got Destroyer's stubby little tail, some more back leg detail, which is very nice. And you got his little shoulder spikes. So yeah, detail on Destroyer is really nice. And then the paint, a lot better than Bandai's paint to Destroyer. At least the 6-inch Destroyer figure we got in the past. Paint's going to be a lot better on this one as well, because you got this paint going on here where it's decently movie accurate. You got the highlights for the legs, and you got the darker colors in the middle, which is typically what Destroyer is supposed to be. Is his main base color is brown, and you got the red accents for everything, and then you got the white tips for his crown and the red on the top of his head, not to mention a really nice piercing yellow eye. So yeah, this is a really cool Destroyer finger puppet, and hopefully we get a Bandai Movie Monster Series Destroyer crab version soon. Cough hint, because I think the re-release of the Bandai Destroyer needs a friend to go along with him. That, and Chanzilla wants some more Destroyer figures. Here we have the King Gadora finger puppet. Now the detail is very nice. You got all the King Gadora's scales. His 3 heads are very detailed very nicely. You got the underside of the necks here. Feet, you got some toe detail off for the feet. Not to mention you got the furry dragon's mane for him and the chin spikes. His faces are all very nicely detailed in my opinion. You got the top of the horn spikes too going on here. I mean, the detail work on the Gadora is amazing. To mention detail work on the wings, and you got his 2 little stubby tails with the kind of Brussels sprouts looking tips there too. The thing for me is the paint for Gadora. Paint is on, paint is off the charts too for this guy. You got the shadings in between his muscles, his legs, his feet, and everything. Really nice shading work here. Even the shading on the wings is really nice. What turns me off is his eyes. This Gadora's eyes make him look really derpy. Like, if there was a Kevin Gadora, this would be it, because this head looks really sad and it looks like he just got punched in the face. This one looks really pissed off and it looks like he has a little cockeye thing going on here. This one just looks like a Kevin. I don't think this one knows what the hell is going on. But it's cool how each head has its own personality. It's just the eyes are really weird. But still a good, finger puppet. All things considered. Just really weird eye paint. Going from weird eye paint to badass eye paint, we have the 1956 Rodan finger puppet here. And might I say, this is one of my favorite finger puppets. Because this is like an ideal paint and detail 1956 Rodan figure. Yeah. I mean, you know my opinions on it as is. The feet detail are very nice. The chest detail, there's not too much detail going on for Rodan, but the fact that they added on his chest spikes is very, very nice. I appreciate that. Not to mention you got a little bit of detail over here for his body. Then you got his wing detail where you got the three things for the inside of the wing. On both sides, kind of the feathery detail, which is not really feathers, but Then you got his membrane over here, all very nicely detailed. You got his three fingers for Rodan. The back of the wings, you got the kind of body texture detail for the outer parts, all very nicely done. Rodan's back is very nicely detailed, including his tail. I'm kind of bummed that there's not that triangle shape for the tail like there usually is, but it's not really a big thing. It's just one small thing that's missing. You got the back of the neck fold for Rodan, which is very nicely done. For me, the kicker for this guy is going to be his face. This is a perfect Rodan face. From the tips of his horns, which are not connected to his body or to his head, and then his beak, as well as the colorations of the paint for everything, very nicely done. All very nicely done. I mean, this is one really, really nicely detailed Rodan figure, and I think I might just take this one for myself, if Chanzilla doesn't mind. We'll talk about this after the review. Okay. Here we have that dreaded 1974 Mecha Godzilla. Freaking pain in the ass. But anyways, this Mecha Godzilla, the detail work is very nice on this Mecha Godzilla. You can see that they tried really, really hard to include all of his metal detail, where you got all the nuts and bolts going on here, as well as the different panel works for this Mecha Godzilla. The detail honestly turned out pretty nice. Even got the knee spikes. Tranzilla, what the hell? You dropped Mecha Godzilla. Anyways, you got the knee spikes over here. You got the fingertips. You got some bolt detail over here as well as the wrist guard. And then you have some very nice detail for Mecha Godzilla's joints, where they're jointed at. All very nicely done. You got the back spikes, the tail, even the tail fin thing. You got the neck bolts over here, Mecha Godzilla's ear. His face is especially very, very nicely detailed. You even got some of that crimping detail over the top of his head, his eyebrows, and it's very nicely detailed teeth. So yeah, detail is really, really nice on this Mecha Godzilla. Paint is, I actually really appreciate the paint too, because you can tell the base color is not really silver. It's kind of this weird bronze color, but you got some little silver details where for this panel, the toenails, his hands, the bolts on his neck. The tail actually might be silver, but that's another story. His teeth are painted silver actually. Besides that though, the other paint you're going to be getting is the Mecha Godzilla, or the MG that's painted on his shoulders. Both shoulders are very tiny, but you can tell they say MG. That's some serious attention to detail right there. Then you got his ears, very nicely painted, and then the middle of the dots for the ears are painted black. Then you have the dots on his, right above his panels, and his eyes painted very nice, piercing yellow. And then in the nostrils, you're going to have this really nice kind of black char color as well. So yeah, paint detail on this Mecha Godzilla, really nice. Here we have the finger puppet Hedora, which at first I thought it was just one little, like, I thought it was just like Hedora's head, but after taking a closer look at it, the detail on this guy is amazing. I mean, you got his face over here, his body, you got Hedora's arms, which I didn't realize they were arms, but these are arms and fingers for Hedora. Then at the top you got Hedora's little cracks for his skull bulb thing going on, which is very nicely detailed. Not to mention his eyes I really like how they did his eyes for this figure, because if there's one thing that makes Hedora, it's his eyes. Turning him around to the back, you got his back sacks, which are very nicely done here. And then you got a little stubby tail for Hedora as well. Now the thing that really, for me, I really like about this figure is the paint, because once again, this kicks Bandai's ass in the paint department, because you got the back sacks where the paint's all very nicely done. You got this really nice striped yellow detail, which is originally what the paint's supposed to be. Then you have all these little nice accents of this pink red and going all throughout the body. Really like that paint. And then you got the yellow detail on the top of that, which granted Bandai did do this, so I gotta give them credit for that. Although you got some little red shading over here, so that's something that they topped Bandai up on. And then you got the paint for the eyes. The eyes are very nicely painted for Hedora. Despite it being a small figure, eyes are pretty much perfect detail wise and paint wise. On top of that, you got this really nice kind of grayish white thing going on here. It's kind of like shading for Hedora, which I really appreciate, because the original or the vinyl color is this black color. So the fact that they kind of went over this shading thing, I think is a very nice touch, and it really helps to bring out more of Hedora's detail. Here we have the 1961 Mothra larva, which is pretty much just, I think it's just another Mothra larva. It can be any Mothra larva, but it looks like the 1961 one, because you got the little dot details all over the body, and it's kind of this whitish color, whereas all the other Mothras are more brown. But I'm getting ahead of myself with paint. Anyways, detail wise for this Mothra larva, very nice. You got his detail work on her face is very nice. The little divots in the head, and for the eyes, the mouth is very nicely detailed. You got her little spikies over here. I like the addition that you have the two extended claw things for Mothra that help her move and fight, which, okay, yeah, this is definitely the 61, because no other Mothra really has the extended claw thingies, and they usually have 3 and not 2. I love that addition to detail. And then all the segments are all very nicely done. You got the movie accurate tip of the tail too. So yeah, this is a really nicely detailed 1961 Mothra larva figure. Now paint, again, this kicks Bandai's ass in paint, because their original Mothra 1961 figure is just full brown, and it looks like any other Mothra, sadly. When in reality, this Mothra is a beautiful work of art, and it actually looks like a silkworm, because it's a lighter in color, and it has all these little dots on its body, which is apparent on this figure. And paint, they just knocked out of the park with paint, because they even got the shading for the little segments here and on the bottom of the figure, and the shading in the little kind of divot areas were with her eyes and over here. And I really like the blue that they used for her eye here, a very nice piercing blue. So yeah, paint on this Mothra, really nice. And I love the little details that we get here. They could have easily gone with a separate mold and just repainted it, but they didn't. And I think it really speaks a lot to what they can do through this figure and all the other ones, because they're all really great figures. Last but not least, we have the Biollante figure here. So where do I start? Because detail on this figure is amazing, and you got each tentacle all separately sculpted. Her face looks accurate and menacing. It doesn't look kind of weird and sad like the original Bandai figure. Not the Bandai Movie Monster Series one, but the original Bandai figure. Her bulb looks very nicely detailed, especially with the vines hanging off of them. And the back here is all the detail work for her grass kind of bush spines, all very nicely done. You even got little thorns over here for her arms, I mean, granted there are some things missing detail wise, but this is such a small figure you can't really ask much of it. But what we do have is amazing for detail, and paint is even better than detail, because you have a lot of really nice shading going on here, especially with the bulb. You got the yellow on the inside, the orange on the outside as it irradiates out. The vines are very nicely painted. There's no weird leakage over here for paint. Then you got the vines themselves, or the arms, where each thing is like, every arm has their own nice paint detail going on here, with the kind of leaf green or brownish sandus beige thing, the dark greens that kind of go one after the other, and then you got the top of the head, which is painted very nicely here as well. On all four of the arms got that detail. On all four of the arms have individually painted teeth too, which is really, really nice. Same for the main head, of course, and you got the tusk detail as well. Interesting how they added a third tusk for Biollante, which I don't usually see, but appreciate that little detail. And then you have this very nice shading over here for the Biollante's spines. So yeah, paint detail amazing for this Biollante. Hopefully if Bandai does an 8-inch figure of her, they take notes on this figure, because this figure did everything right in terms of detail and paint. And this will do it for volume 1 of the Sofvi Puppet Mascot Godzilla box set. Anyways though, on to volume 2. For volume 2 here, we're going to start off with the Gyan. Now, Gyan detail work is all very nicely done, and in fact, for me, it's a step up from detail work from volume 1 King Hedora, because the scaling is a lot more intricate and a lot nicer detail-wise. And then you got the kneecaps for Gyan here, all very nicely detailed, as well as kind of the suit folds, muscle things going on here, over here, over here, over here. I love those little detail additions. Gyan's buzzsaw is very nicely done. His knife, hook, feet, hands, all very nicely done. You got the detail work for the spikes for the top of the head, as well as the top of the, and you got the little spike on the tip of the tail. Much appreciate that. Gyan's face over here is really kind of the highlight. His face is very nicely done, in my opinion. You got the hook, you got the teeth, you got all of the teeth. Now, you don't only have 2, Bandai. You got all 4 of the teeth over here for Gyan over here, and including that little opening for the mouth. You got the visor, of course, and his little forehead beam, which he never, ever uses. I have no idea why. Such a tactical mistake. But we didn't even get to Gyan's wings, which are all individually detailed, and in my opinion, very nicely done. Paint for Gyan is going to be the real star here, because all of his spines and spikes are painted, including the one to the tip of the tail. All of his teeth are painted on the inside of the mouth, and you got the black for the inside of the mouth too, to show that it is the inside of the mouth. In fact, the hooks are all painted very nicely. The buzzsaw is painted very nicely, as well as, I'm guessing this is the base coat, but you know, base coat, I really like the base final color that they used for him either way. But the real star paint-wise is going to be the gold-ish orange paint, where there's some shading going on here. You got the main kind of orangish gold color that they use for his gold, and then you have the kind of inner lighter gold paint that they used for Gyan over here, which is very nice. Like, you can see how it kind of gets really light in the middle and it radiates out to this darker colors here. And I'm using Chanzilla's hands to help point them out, because I can't move mine right now without looking weird. But yeah, Gyan detail-wise and paint-wise, oh, got the little dot on the forehead for the paint, by the way, too. As far as just very nicely painted, I love that red. But yeah, detail-wise and paint-wise for your Gyan, very, very nice, and a very nice little Gyan figure. Here we have the Hedora, flying form Hedora figure. Now, detail, it's pretty much what you'd expect from the flying form Hedora. Just a little thing. Eye detail is very nicely done. Top of the head detail is all very nicely done. You even got these little kind of wavy details, like the sludge is flowing off of him. That comes to the point. All the detail work on this guy is very nicely done. The paint is again going to be the star for this guy, even though looking at the Bandai one, Bandai may be on par for paint for this figure and their figure of their flying form Hedora. Eyes are of course very nicely painted, and then you got the top paint detail over here where you got all the yellows and the reds going on here. Yeah, very nicely painted flying form Hedora. You also still got the same gray shading, which they didn't have to include, but they still did. So very, very nice flying Hedora figure. If you don't have one yet, this could be a good substitute, even though it's just really cutesy and kind of dumb looking, but still a really nice substitute in my opinion. And here we have the Jaguar finger puppet figure, which is kind of a step back in my opinion from the past ones, because his arms aren't molded outwards, and in fact they're kind of weirdly positioned where it looks like he's holding his chest or his nipples for some reason. Anyway though, all the detail work we have for Jaguar here is very nicely done. All of his little arm bands and his elbows, all very nicely done. He's going to be missing knees because his legs are going to be short, but that's really a small thing for me. You got his waist here, his kind of waist guard, groin guard, very nicely detailed. You got the little silver arrow here, love that. You got the arrow on his chest. You got his neck collar guard thing, very nicely detailed. And then the real star for detail is going to be Jaguar's face, where he looks menacing, which I think might be a trope for all these figures where they look menacing, because he's smiling even though he's always smiling. It's Jaguar, but you know that's another thing. You got the very nice detail for the head over here. You got the detail work for his little antennae. When he flies, he has antenna over here, very nicely detailed. And on the back of Jaguar, all the detail work is going to be there too, including the bolts on the back of his head and his little horseshoe thing going on here, as well as the back thing for the neck and the spine thing, I guess you can say, going on for Jaguar. All very nice detail, all painted accurately. You got all the paint that's supposed to be there, as you saw. And I'm not going to go into paint anymore because there's too much paint to talk about this guy, because it's all there, from the reds, the blues, the yellows, the silvers. Now, one thing I might change would be the eyes, because the eyes are officially now blue for Jaguar. But that's really a recent change in my opinion. And I think this is, paint knocked out of the park for this guy too. I love the blue that they use, and it's not the typical, really dark blue. This is more like a softer dark blue. But yeah, really nice Jaguar figure, even if he does look like he's grabbing his nipples. Over here we have the Kiryu figure for the Sofvi puppet mascot. Now, he's a little weird. He looks like a jock who's got a really big head. Let me put it this way. He looks like a midget version of Kiryu. His head is freaking huge. His backpack make doesn't help him at all. And his body looks really blocky. He looks weird. But all the detail is there that's supposed to be there. From the chest detail, you got the hinges for the chest here. You got the groin area for Mecha Godzilla. You got his kneecaps, and they got the 3 little dots there as well. Very nice details. You got his toes, his hands, his arm cannons as well are all very nicely detailed. There's all those little bits of detail there for Mecha Godzilla, or I'm sorry, not Mecha Godzilla, for Kiryu's arm cannons. All turned out very, very nice. You even got the wire. You got the little individual kind of little segments for the tail, all of his little spines. You're going to be missing the back spines because of the backpack. Although the backpack is really one of the highlights, because the backpack is decently detailed, despite it kind of being a smaller figure. Even the front cannons over here are very nicely detailed. Then you got Kiryu's face, which looks a little off, but to me, it gets the job done still, honestly speaking. You got the individually sculpted teeth, which are kind of squarish. The nose, arrow, very nicely done. You got the red lines. You got the fins for all of his little, head ornaments. Yeah, detail work is very nice in this guy. Paint is really nice too. You got all the paint where it's got to be. For this copy, it's really sloppy, especially here. Here on the shoulder cannon, over here is a little sloppy too. Not really a big deal, but the weird thing for me is he looks more white than silver, which Mecha or Kiryu should be silver, even though I kind of understand where it's like when he first comes into battle, he's kind of glowing this white light, kind of thing going on for Kiryu, but it's just one of those things where it's a personal preference. Even though granted, you still got the shading thing going on. So for this figure, it feels like they may have taken a step back, but it's not really a big deal because he's still a very nicely detailed and very nicely painted figure. It's just some things are just a little off. That's it. But granted, it is a finger puppet, so yeah. Here's a figure where the detail and the paint is not going to be off at all. In fact, it's going to be pretty much perfect. You got the Destroyer perfect form figure here. His face is perfect detail wise. Then you got his arms, his little stubby arms. You got the shoulder spikes, the chest cannon thing. You got a Destroyer's groin over here, very nicely detailed. The fact that that in is very cool. All of his knee spikes are there. All of his little claws are all there. Then you got the little wing, you got the big wing, all very nicely detailed. All the segments for the tail, you even got the claw tail. The detail work on the claw tail is very nicely done for Destroyer, in my opinion. And you got his 4 wings. I really like how they positioned and did the wings. Bandai could do this. This would be an ideal Destroyer figure pose, in my opinion. Now, the real thing here, though, is going to be Destroyer's face. His face is, like I said, it's perfect. You got all the mangled teeth, which you can tell are very nicely detailed because they all look really mangled. His mandibles, his horns, very nicely detailed, and his face and the crest, all very nicely done for Destroyer. Now, the topper for me is going to be Destroyer's paint because the paint is amazing. You got the brown base form, of course, or the vinyl is actually red, but you got the brown shading anyways for the inside, and you have all these little deep paint details where you got the paint for all of his claws pretty much, and then you got the paint for the chest cannon, and then for each little individual little petal detail, it's all painted black. The thing for me is the shading for the chest cannon thing and the horn, though. You got the kind of undercoat where it's white, and then you got this really nice kind of yellow brown shading, which I love the effect that they used for it, and it turned out very nice and it paid off. So yeah, Destroyer is an amazing step-up figure from Kiryu. The next figure we have here is the butterfly that I fought in my movie. This is the this is the same goddamn motherfucking butterfly. This is the 1961, although it ended up being the 1964 Mothra. Anyways, this is a Mothra puppet, pretty much, and it looks like she's just coming out of her cocoon. I really love that detail where they added a cocoon detail, but all the little furry detail for Mothra, and they got her little legs over here, all very nicely done. Her face looks like a butt. I don't know why they kind of did away with the original face that they had for the larva, but it's just an interesting little detail. You got the little spikies too for her face for 1961 version. She has 2 little spikes above her 2 mandibles, which are all very nicely done. Bulbous eyes are very nicely detailed. You got the hexagonal patterns and the outside thing. You got the teardrop bulb for the face. Antenna is very nicely done. Glad that they include the antenna. Then you got Mothra's wings. All of her wings are very nicely detailed. You got the furry pattern here, and you got the kind of plain-ish detail going on here. Although you do have the segmented little white, kind of segmented fluffy detail over here for the edges of the wings. So yeah, that's a very nice detail that I did not notice until now, actually. And then as you can see, paint is pretty much perfect for all of it. You got the perfectly detailed Mothra wings over here. Every little detail that's supposed to be there is there, including for the furry parts, the orangey parts of the wings, the ring around the eye itself. I like the blue that they used. And then even for the cocoon, they didn't have to put shading, but they put shading on the cocoon. A very nice little detail addition, as well as a very nice detail addition of the buildings underneath the cocoon, and they even painted that. So yeah, they really went all out with this figure. Although I will say, something similar that them and Bandai have is the undersides are not painted, but that's not really a biggie. Still a really nice figure, even though this is my mortal enemy. Here's a mortal enemy of all Godzilla fans, almost all Godzilla fans. We got freaking Manilla over here. I'm kind of happy they made a little finger puppet of this guy because now I got a figure to put on my middle finger. Anyways, though, detail from Manilla is really nice. He got all of his pudginess, little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man detail going on here. His thumbs are actually detailed outwards, which is really interesting. All the baby folds are where they're supposed to be. He got his cute little pudgy face, all very nicely detailed. His 3 teeth, his doped out looking eyes. He even got eyelids. That's kind of cool. Turning around his back, you got his little stubby tail, his little back spines. I mean, detail's pretty good. You got all the shading that's supposed to be there, including the shading for the belly, where he has kind of this yellow shading for his belly and his knees, his shoulders. All that is all there, very nicely done. The paint for the mouth, I like how they painted the mouth and the gums and his 5 little teeth, sorry. And they got the black paint for the nostrils and the eyes. They did a very good job in the eyes of making him look as dopey as he does in the movie. So yeah, Manilla, very good representation of him. And finally got someone to put on my middle finger. Here we have Manilla's more disturbing counterpart. We have Kamada-kun, which is the Manilla of Shin Godzilla. And honestly, there's nothing cute about this guy besides he looks like a little Godzilla puppy dog. But that's about where it ends there, because all of his details are amazing and he looks like a very messed up, mutated shark eel thing with legs. Need I say more? Anyways, though, the face detail is very nicely done for this guy. I like how they did the eyes here. You got the individually detailed teeth. You got his little gills, his little turkey wings, which, by the way, speaking of which, I know Thanksgiving was this past Thursday, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Those little turkey wings over here, his really big legs. Got the little feet detailed in there, as well as the little thigh spike on both sides. Very nice little detail there. Then you got his very nicely detailed tail. You don't really have detail on the fin part, which is not a really big thing, honestly speaking. But you do have detail, this little line detail that's in the movie on all the figures, so that's a very nice addition. Paint on this guy is going to be amazing. Got more paint than we got on the original figure, to be honest with you. Spines are going to be very nicely painted. This dark color of this little irradiation orange thing going on here, all the way to the tippity top of the tail. Then you're going to have his gills all very nicely painted, and his mouth is all very nicely painted as well. The bummer for me is his teeth aren't painted, which granted it's just one small thing that's only on this guy, but they do on all the other figures. It's just kind of a bummer it's not painted on this figure. I like how they did the eyes, though. The eyes are perfect. They're exactly as disturbing as they need to be, and as derpy as they need to be, because his eyes are very derpy in the movie. But yeah, very nice Kamada-kun representation. Really like this figure. Here we got the Godzilla 2000, the future counterpart of me. Yeah, so his face looks like the Godzilla 2002 Godzilla, even though his spines say Godzilla 2000 Godzilla. It's kind of strange. From the front is 2002, from the side is 2000. Interesting detail, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. Everything else is very nicely detailed. His chest is kind of big for my taste, but it's neither here nor there. Arms are very nicely detailed. Legs are very nicely detailed. I really like how they did the spines here. I was kind of worried about the back spine, but the way they did it is very nicely done. You got his nice Godzilla 2000 tail with the sharp point. You even got the little ears over here going on for him. Little cat ears. He looks pissed off as ever, and I am loving it. Anyways, to finish off this piece of fried chicken. To finish this guy off, the paint is very nicely done. His toenails are painted this very nice brown. You got his teeth all individually painted. Eyes very painted very nicely, looking very menacing. And very forward. I appreciate that. And his spines are very nicely painted as well. They're really nice iridescent purple color. You even got a little bit of shade in here. So yeah, paint, very nice. Details, a little weird, but still really digging it because it is Godzilla 2000. Possibly my second favorite Godzilla design, personally. Second to me, of course. And last but not least, we have the Heisei Godzilla figure puppet. So for the Heisei Godzilla, you're going to have a different sculpt actually from the Burning Godzilla, which is kind of neat. His fingers are going to be more curved in. he's going to be a little more hunched over. His chest and everything else is about the same actually. His face is going to look a lot softer too from the Burning Godzilla, but all the detail work is very nicely done. I especially like the scaling detail they have going on for this guy now. I love the position for his hands. They even position his tail very differently, which is kind of cool. There's a very noticeable difference for the spines too, where some of the spines are a little more positioned differently. Yeah, detail, you can tell this is a whole different figure from Burning Godzilla, which I appreciate wholly. And then Pain, of course, is going to be different from Burning Godzilla because he's the normal version of Godzilla before he turns into Burning Godzilla. But paint, brown toenail paint, brown fingernail paint, teeth are painted in this really nice white color. His eyes are very menacing looking, and for the inner parts, you got this little brown paint going on here, which is really, really nice, really cool. Dorsal plates are going to be painted in this white color, and you have this kind of, looks like they just kind of went a little sprit with it on top of the vinyl for the inner parts of the dorsal fins, which is actually a pretty cool effect. So yeah, paint is very nice and detail is very nice, and I think this is a really nice figure to kind of end this review on, because it's the Heisei Godzilla. It's most likely the Godzilla that everyone was introduced to, and it's the main Godzilla that everyone was really kind of using for all the promo as the years went on. So anyways, this will do it for today's review pretty much. Paint and detail for all of these guys, even though detail for some of them are kind of weird, paint for all these guys are amazing, and I think Bane could take some notes when it comes down to the paint department from all of these figures and the company that made all these figures, which was Ensky. E-N-S-K-Y. Oh, okay, yeah. Anyways, I think Bane could take notes from Ensky in the paint department. But this has been Godzilla 1964 saying I hope you enjoyed this review. And if you like what you see on Chanzilla's channel, and if you want to keep me going, please hit that like button and the subscribe button. I may have messed it up. If you like what you see in the video, hit the like button. If you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you think I may have missed anything, please do leave a comment in the comment section down below. Although in reality, Chanzilla is going to read it because I could really give a crap or a damn or whatever. But anyways, this has been Godzilla 1964 saying thank you for watching this video, and thank you for letting me come back one more time. I may probably see you guys in the future, but anyways, see you later. Chanzilla, please do the outro. Peace, peace.